Hi everyone, welcome to week 3. So, I wanted to talk about the descriptive writing assignment since this kind of blends the creative and more academic that we've been working on in the first 2 weeks. So, let me go through it with you and then I'll give you an example of what you could possibly do in this assignment later on. So if we look at the instructions, you cut and paste a picture of a work of art. It can be famous or yet to be discovered. So the work of art really doesn't matter where it's coming from. Obviously, you want to maybe give credit to the artist, especially if it's someone unknown. That way, it kind of helps me see where you're getting this stuff from, and just like any source, we want to cite it. Now, the next part is write a history of the piece of art and the artist. So this is where it can get kind of difficult. The maybe more obscure piece of art you pick. In order to do this, it's important that you're doing research on the artist. So I personally would try to pick an artist that I like, that I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of information about. So I'm not trying to, scramble in terms of finding stuff that is applicable to this essay. So when you're thinking about the research, I would look first at the artist, maybe what their story was like, where they're from, time period. Maybe are they a modernist or something like this, impressionist? Where do they fit into everything? And then I would look at the piece of art. I'm assuming this is going to be less information about the art than, of course, the artist, but this is all dependent on the person you pick. All right. So, again, when you're working with sources, make sure that you don't plagiarize. Make sure that primarily this is your ideas. If you're having trouble with things like in-text citations, which is where you signal where you got this information from, please talk to me beforehand. It's better because sometimes people might accidentally plagiarize where they think they're citing it and then they get an email from me, and then we have to kind of work it out that way. So when in doubt, email please. All right, so I think that's sort of like the basis. It's pretty straightforward. After you've done that part, you get to do a descriptive poem that uses the imagery to describe the artwork. And so, you can kind of be really creative with this where, I know it says use imagery to describe the artwork. You can kind of put yourself in the artwork. In the one that we're going to be going over, it's kind of doing both, I think. So, really I think that's it in terms of the fundamental assignment. I think it's pretty straightforward. And so I thought maybe what we could do is look at an example of this so you can probably get an idea. So honestly, the main part is the research, right? Where you're telling us about the art and the artist. That's one part. The next part is the creative aspect of this. So there's someone named Bruegel the Elder. Now, I had to Google how to pronounce his name several times, and I'm still not sure of it. But this is a very famous Middle Ages artist. If you look at this painting that we're going to talk about, Hunters in the Snow, it might not look totally familiar to you, but if you look at some of his other works, you'll be like, oh, okay, I've seen that somewhere. Like there's a band, Fleet Foxes. They always use his artwork, I believe. So it's very, he's very famous, and I think, it's just, I don't think we're maybe familiar with names as much when we're thinking about this era of artists, right? But anyway, the reason why I wanted to pick this painting, and I'm going to include it in the post, is that not only is it kind of, an interesting painting. If you look at his other works, they're always like really busy trying to give you a slice of life of like this time period, obviously. But William Carlos Williams in 1962 actually wrote a poem called "Hunters in the Snow," invoking, this painting. And so basically, if you read the poem, which I'll also include, you can see he's basically doing our assignment in terms of, he's not giving us the history of the painter and the painting. Obviously, that's part he did not do, but he did the creative aspect of this, right? So where he's writing about the painting. Okay, so I thought this would be a really interesting one to kind of pick. So if you're interested, I thought you can kind of look at it. Obviously, there's a lot of imagery in this particular painting, and so another good thing about this painting is that since this is a more well-known author, there's going to be a lot more about him. So if I were doing this assignment, I would kind of pick something like this. Obviously it doesn't have to be this particular painting, but I would pick maybe a more well-known author. Ooh, okay, I get it. Oh, sorry. I would pick a more well-known person like that in order to kind of base my essay and poem on. Okay? So the only major thing I could really foresee maybe things happening this week is people getting stuck on research. So please head on up to the library. So if you don't know where the library is, if you're on our in our course, it's to the right-hand corner where it says library, and there you'll find a lot of great databases. Okay? Personally, I recommend starting with EBSCOhost. If you do the Academic Search Complete, that's going to be the big one. If you go to EBSCOhost, choose database, that's where you get a little bit more specific, and you can choose the specific database that you want to focus on, right? So since we're dealing with, in a lot of ways, history, art history, if you want to be specific about looking in those databases, that's where you can maybe do that. All right, and I'm also going to do a very quick presentation on Hemingway, so look for that one later in the week. Talk to you later. Have a good week. Bye.